Hello, welcome to the new video The Love of Milim and Rimuru by BenGrem1234. Chapter 64, Fighting in the Golden City of El Dorado. As the battle raged on in the Kingdom of El Dorado, the conflict between the Demon Lord Leon and the Commander Angel Chris was coming to an end. Leon showcased sword skills that left Chris baffled. If not for Chris's utilization of light-based attacks, he would have long since died from Leon's sword moves. Leon rushed towards Chris with a sword thrust aimed directly at his heart. Chris, who was holding a sword created from golden light, adjusted the strength of his hand and used his sword to deflect Leon's attack, saving himself from a fatal blow. Immediately, Leon altered his footwork, and his sword followed suit, turning around and sweeping towards Chris's neck. Chris became frightened by Leon's fierce offensive. After dodging it, Chris changed his own steps and tried to jump out of the battle circle. Understanding Chris's intention, Leon swiftly followed, not giving Chris a chance to escape. Seeing no way out, Chris roared in anger. "You think you're good? Well, time to get serious, you bastard." Saying that, Chris began to counter all of Leon's moves, putting Leon at a disadvantage. His sword moves have changed. He is now faster than I can respond to, Leon thought to himself. Trying to retreat from the battle circle, Leon was intercepted by Chris. "Oh no, you don't." Chris increased his sword moves to become faster and fiercer, catching Leon off guard. Before long, Leon was sent flying by a sword thrust from Chris, which destroyed the chest part of his golden armor and left a gaping wound on his chest. Weakly standing up after crashing to the ground, Leon coughed out blood. "I can't believe how powerful this angel is. If I don't bring out all my trump cards, I'll die," Leon thought to himself. Chris, not giving Leon a chance to breathe, raised his hand and created many golden swords in the sky. The swords filled the sky, moving at light speed, descending upon Leon. "Disappear into dust, 100 Breaker!" Leon roared, releasing a dark golden aura from his body, turning his armor black. Stabbing his sword into the ground, Leon generated a massive amount of light, forming a barrier around him. The light swords heading toward him disintegrated upon contact with the light surrounding him. The light around Leon split into 100 different beams, each large enough to engulf a human. Directed by Leon, the beams headed toward Chris, who had a gloomy look on his face. Not wasting time, Chris created multiple light barrier around himself. Not feeling satisfied, he activated multiple defensive equipment he has on him and braced himself for the attack heading his way. The impact caused a continental explosion, drawing everyone's attention to the battlefield. Everyone who was fighting paused to understand the source of the explosion, but seeing that it was coming to where Demon Lord Leon was fighting, they became focused again and resumed their battle. As the dust settled, Chris, covered in blood but otherwise fine, stood amidst the destruction. Leon's expression turned gloomy as he saw that Chris was still alive. He couldn't understand how he managed to survive multiple disintegration technique, but it doesn't change the fact that he did survive it. Chris laughed loudly like a person who has lost his mind, but if one were to observe closely, they would see that his face was covered in anger. After his laughter died down, Chris looked at Leon with a gloomy expression. "It would be impolite of me if I didn't reciprocate." Lowering his sword, Chris prepared his technique, Insanity Hash. Chris' light sword, capable of cutting through the hardest alienium exoskeleton in two, had the power to kill just about anything it cuts. He brought down his sword, which released the biggest sword wave that covered the entire region. The sword wave was fast to the point of stupidity, and it was headed to where Leon was. Due to the wave's speed, Leon barely had time to activate his multi-layer barrier before being engulfed. The entire area from where Leon was standing was destroyed. The sword wave kept moving in a straight line, and it killed all those along its path, be it the knight, the demons or the angels. Chris coughed out blood, but he was still standing. He waved his hand to clear the dust. After the dust was cleared, Leon was seen kneeling on one knee while supporting his body with his sword, which was firmly inserted into the ground. His golden black armor was destroyed, leaving his top bare with only a tattered up black trouser as his only form of clothing. He was covered in wounds and blood was pouring out from all of his wounds. Even though Leon has the skill Ultra Speed Regeneration, due to him expanding almost all his magicule, his skill was significantly slowed down. Despite his injuries, Leon weakly stood up and glared at Chris, who matched his gaze despite his own injuries. "It seems I greatly underestimated you, but it ends now. Neither of us has much power left, but I refuse to fall without seeing you dead at my feet," Chris declared. Raising his sword, Leon took his stance. "Enough talk. We settle this with our next attack." Both Chris and Leon looked at each other for a few minutes in silence. The next instant, both of them rushed at each other with the fastest speed they could muster considering their current weak state. Both of them had their sword ready as they ran toward each other with the intention to kill. Leon, running towards Chris, found his vision blurring due to his fatigue and injuries, hampering his reaction time. Chris, who was better off than Leon, noticed that Leon was getting weaker and his reflex was slowing down. Not wasting the golden opportunity, Chris kicked away Leon's sword from his hand and thrust his own sword deep into Leon's heart. In a final act of desperation, Leon gathered his remaining power in his right hand, shooting a condensed disintegration spell into Chris's chest, narrowly missing his heart. With a sigh, Leon felt an immense regret at not being able to kill Chris before his end. "Damn. To think that I would end up dying here. Talk about a disappointment. If only I was stronger, then I would have killed this bastard before I go. My only regret is that I won't be able to see Chloe again. Oh well, I'll have to leave it to Rimuru to take care of her and everything else. This is it for me," Leon thought to himself as he was falling to the ground. After that, Leon fell to the ground and passed away. A pool of blood formed where he laid. Chris staggered back due to the force of the disintegration spell that shot through his heart, but he didn't fall. He coughed out a lot of blood and he grit his teeth to suppress the pain as he looked at the dead body of Leon. "You were a worthy opponent, Demon Lord Leon, but it looks like I am the victor of our battle. You will certainly be remembered by me as the greatest adversary I have ever faced. Take pride in that in your next life." Saying that, Chris turned around and began to move, but he immediately stopped as an overwhelmingly aura locked him in place. He fell on his knees and coughed up more blood as the aura was crushing him. Before long, he vanished without a trace to be seen. I know this chapter is short and a bit depressing, but bear with me. I promise the next chapter will be bigger. Some of you might miss Leon, but his fate had to align with his status as the weakest of the octogram. And for some of you that might call Ramirez, don't forget that Ramirez has her true form that is remarkably powerful, even more powerful than a berserk Milim in the past. With that in mind, Leon had to bite the bullet for the rest. Things are progressing smoothly, and soon we'll reach the main fight that determines the world's outcome. It will be fun to write it. Chapter 65. Conclusion of the battle at El Dorado. Before Leon's death, as the fight between Leon and Chris was going on, another, even more violent battle was taking place in the sky above El Dorado. A shockwave that shook the entire universe was occurring, and the culprits were Diablo, Testarossa, and the female elite, Casca. Holding her lance, Casca calmly observed Diablo and Testarossa, who were a distance away from her, breathing heavily. "I admit that you both have seriously surpassed my expectations, but I have you both beat in everything. Take pride in the fact that you two have lasted this long against me in battle," Casca told them. Testarossa gritted her teeth in anger but couldn't say anything because she knew that what Casca said was correct. She and Diablo had tried everything on her, and she shrugged them off with little effort. If it was just her fighting this woman, she would have died 1,000,000 times over. This was a huge blow to her, as she had power equal to a true dragon, the pinnacle of the world. Diablo brought his hand to his mouth and laughed. "Kuf foo 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 foo. You are indeed strong, but we were both given the mission of stopping you, and it would be blasphemy to go against my lord's orders." Casca sighed at that. "Guess I have to kill you too if I want to conquer this kingdom, then." "Hump. You can try, but I assure you we are not easy to kill," Testarossa said, readying her whip. Casca, raising her lance in the air and shot out multiple light orbs, which divided until there were more than 1,000,000 THST, began to head toward Diablo and Testarossa. "Here they come," Diablo said as he activated his ultimate skill, which turned the world black. When the blackness receded, all those millions of light orbs had disappeared. Casca, taking advantage of their distraction, rushed toward Testarossa with her lance ready. Testarossa, seeing her, readied her whip. She began to spin her whip, creating multiple death orbs that she sent towards Casca. Cheap tricks. Casca, creating a multi-layered barrier around her, continued her charge at Testarossa. Due to her speed being millions of times faster than light, she appeared in front of Testarossa before the blink of an eye and stabbed her with her lance. She smirked as she saw Testarossa cough out black blood, but her smirk changed as she saw Testarossa smiling at her. Oh crap! Before she could react, the Testarossa she had stabbed exploded, catching her in the blast. The explosion was powerful enough to destroy at least 2 universes, but it was contained thanks to Diablo's ultimate skill. Testarossa appeared beside Diablo, looking pale but smiling. I can't believe she fell for it. Do you think she is dead, Diablo? Let's watch for now. Even if she survives your clone's explosion, she would be pretty wounded, giving us more opportunity to kill her, Diablo calmly told her. Before long, the explosion died down, and to the shock of both Diablo and Testarossa, Casca was seen floating in the air without a single scratch on her. She looked at both Testarossa and Diablo calmly. Gotta say, that took me by surprise. If not for my turn null energy, I would have been seriously injured by that attack. Well, playtime is over. Saying that, Casca began to release an insurmountable aura that shocked both Diablo and Testarossa. No way. She was still holding back this much power? Testarossa asked with shock. This is her true strength. Indeed, it is quite powerful. I reckon that even if she faces 4 true dragon-level opponents, she would come out on top, Diablo analyzed. We obviously can't beat her by ourselves. What should we do, Diablo? Testarossa asked. Diablo readied his claws. Nothing much but to buy time and wait for powerful reinforcements to arrive. Casca, after releasing her suppressed power, felt free. It has been a while since I stopped suppressing my power. You two are obviously not my match now. I can crush you two with a finger if I wanted to. I can't argue with that, since I see you do have the power to back up your arrogance, but don't think that we will lie down and wait for death. We must kill you and survive, as that is the mission that was assigned to us, Diablo told her. Era didn't take you for a passionate guy, Diablo. Though I will say you are right, since I don't plan on dying to her, Testarossa said as she tightened her grip on her whip in preparation for the upcoming battle. Even though both Diablo and Testarossa knew that Casca could end them with little effort, neither of them had any intention of backing down, showing their resolve to carry out their master's wishes to the end. The battleground quivered as the confrontation began. Casca's mastery over turn null energy twisted the fabric of reality itself, countering the prowess of Diablo and Testarossa. Their attacks, each resonating with the primal energies of creation, clashed with Casca's turn null energy, causing shockwaves that reverberated across El Dorado. The mere shockwaves shattered mountains, and the skies crackled with a resonance that threatened to rupture the very fabric of the universe. Diablo, with his indomitable will and infernal strength, unleashed torrents of darkness that danced in harmony with Testarossa's tempestuous cyclones. Their combined assault aimed to breach Casca's defenses, yet her turn null energy repelled their every strike, casting back their most potent attacks. As the battle reached a crescendo, the very ground trembled, and El Dorado's denizens who were fighting with the angels felt the ominous tremors of the clash. The sky was painted with the awe-inspiring spectacle of their combat, though it brought devastation upon the land, as shockwaves devastated cities and shook the very essence of life. Casca, her strength unyielding, pressed her advantage. She aimed to finish Diablo and Testarossa, their resilience notwithstanding. The elite's relentless assault pushed them to the brink of defeat, threatening to extinguish their formidable powers. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost for Diablo and Testarossa, a divine presence intervened. Casca, who was preparing to finish them off, stopped. Not just her, but the entire world stopped. The fighting in the kingdom of El Dorado ceased, as everyone, including knights, demons, and angels, felt paralyzed. It wasn't just them. Even Diablo, Testarossa, and Casca felt paralyzed. Not a sound could be heard in the entire kingdom of El Dorado. What stopped everyone from moving was the omnipotent power that covered the entire kingdom. The power was so overwhelming that even true dragon-level beings like Diablo and Testarossa, and even Casca, who was many times stronger than a true dragon, felt as insignificant as ants before the power. What a ridiculous level of power! What on earth could have such power? Testarossa, who was covered in black blood, for the first time since the battle started, had a look of fear on her face. I don't know. I have only ever felt this level of power from Lord Rimuru, which can only mean one thing, Diablo said with dread. Casca had it the worst. It was as if the power was specifically targeting her, and all the others were just bystanders. So you are the so-called elite causing trouble for Diablo and Testarossa? Casca heard a voice that shook her very soul. She wasn't the only one who heard the voice, as it resounded throughout the entire kingdom. She looked up and saw a girl with shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes wearing a black snow coat with a skull pin over a white shirt and tie, looking at her as if she was an insignificant ant with her hands folded. Casca, an elite of Rimuru whose pride was unparalleled, found herself face to face with Carrera, a being whose very existence transcended the conventional bounds of reality. Testarossa and Diablo looked up as well, and to their shock, Carrera was standing in the air, looking at Casca with annoyance. Testarossa couldn't hide her shock. No way. Is that actually Carrera? When did she become so strong? Diablo, too, couldn't hide his astonishment. I knew that she had the greatest potential among all the primordial demons, but to think she would reach this height. It would appear she has left all of us behind. Carrera ignored what Testarossa and Diablo were saying and focused her attention on Casca. You are indeed powerful and would have given me a good fight if we had met earlier, but sadly, you are not worth mentioning in front of the current me. Casca's rage boiled as she heard the mockery in Carrera's voice. Her rage and anger at being mocked caused her power to skyrocket. She screamed with all her lungs and released an overwhelmingly turned null energy from her body. Her fair skin began to darken, and her blonde hair began to turn black. After she was done, she glared at Carrera with her newfound power, which shook the world. Testarossa fell to her knees in shock at the power coming out of Casca which suppressed her, dear Rimuru. She was still holding back her power. How can any being have such power? Diablo's expression changed to uncertainty. He too was nearly forced to his knees by the power gushing out from Casca, but resisted it due to his willpower. Her power has transcended the world. No being other than Lord Rimuru can beat her. Can Carrera really win? Casca raised her lance, which then got covered in the chaotic energy of Turn Null. Rushing with newfound speed, she thrust her spear at Carrera with all her might. Immediately after her spear made contact with Carrera, an explosion that shook the entire universe occurred. The power of her thrust was so powerful that it could easily destroy one of the super dimensions, which housed infinite transcending universes. If not for Rimuru's aura, which covered the entire universe before the war started, not just the cardinal universe, but the middle dimension that housed the cardinal universe would have been destroyed by the power of her thrust. Casca was certain that Carrera was dead, but to her shock, Carrera was standing where she was without even the slightest scratch on her. She didn't even put up any barrier or defense, as it was seen that the lance was stabbing her clothes but couldn't pierce it. Casca couldn't help but fall into despair as she saw her strongest move did absolutely nothing to Carrera. I let you land your move on me to show you the gap between us. You may have power infinitely close to a deity, but you are not yet there. To me, your so-called power is like looking at an ant trying to challenge the infinite multiverse. The gap between you and I is not something that can be bridged by powering up. Unless you step into the realm of deity, you will forever be insignificant before me, Carrera told her. With a gesture that transcended mortal understanding, Carrera's divine power radiated, forming an ethereal barrier that defied the catastrophic force of Casca's Turn Null energy. The clash between the two powers created shockwaves that rippled through the fabric of reality, distorting space and time. Even though Casca was afraid of Carrera's powers, she refused to yield. Consumed by fury and emboldened by her overwhelming power, she relentlessly pushed against Carrera's. But with each strike, Carrera effortlessly nullified the chaotic energy, redirecting its force away from the delicate balance of the universe. You are outmatched. Only suffering and death awaits you the more you struggle. Carrera's words held the weight of certainty, a truth echoed by the unwavering authority that she embodied. Frustration etched across Casca's features as her attacks continued to be nullified by Carrera's unyielding power. Despite her unparalleled might, the chasm in their strengths was evident. Carrera's presence and abilities were beyond the reach of Casca's chaotic energy. With a gesture that emanated sheer cosmic authority, Carrera's power enveloped Casca, subduing the elite's chaotic energy without resistance. Casca despaired in the face of such overwhelming power. She had nothing left to try as all powers she has are meaningless before Carrera. Not wasting time, Casca immediately turned around to flee but found that her movement had been restricted. Did I give you permission to leave? For your insolence, Your punishment will be billions of years of agony and torment in my prison." Saying that, Carrera raised her right hand in the air. Immediately, she weaved a new reality, a dimensional world designed to confine and chastise the indomitable elite, Casca. Within the confines of this pocket dimension, a realm born of Carrera's divine will, lay an expanse suffused with darkness and an eerie, unnerving silence. It was a desolate world shrouded in a haze of torment, where time lost its meaning and agony thrived. Casca was dragged into the dimension by a gravitational pull and was sealed inside it. Casca, sealed within this realm by Carrera's unfathomable powers, found herself in a labyrinth of unending suffering. The dimension was an abstract landscape, a convergence of ethereal torment and endless despair. Shadowy mists veiled a landscape that twisted and contorted, a canvas of discord and anguish. Screams reverberated through the void, carried by unseen winds that echoed Casca's own internal turmoil. Phantasmal echoes of her past deeds taunted her, replaying haunting memories with vivid, unbearable clarity. It was a maddening cycle that amplified her remorse and regret, perpetually reopening wounds of the soul. The fabric of reality in this realm was a warped mosaic, constantly shifting and morphing, a manifestation of Carrera's divine retribution. Each moment in this desolate world stretched into an eternity, billions of years of ceaseless torment. As Casca navigated this dimension, seeking respite from the unyielding suffering, she found no solace, no escape. The very essence of the realm seemed to feed on her distress, its purpose to eternally chastise and reprimand. The air crackled with a malevolent energy, and the terrain transformed with each step, creating a kaleidoscope of desolation. Despair was the only constant, a perpetual companion in this twisted landscape. Carrera, with her unwavering authority, had orchestrated a prison for Casca, a place of isolation where the elite faced the consequences of her uncontrolled power and unchecked pride. In Carrera's created world of unending torment, Casca faced an eternity of retribution, ensnared within the relentless grasp of a reality crafted to inflict everlasting anguish, a testament to Carrera's boundless power and the consequences that awaited those who challenged said powers. Carrera, after making sure that Casca was sealed, turned to Testarossa and Diablo. "Are you guys okay?" Testarossa smiled at her question. "A little drained but overall fine. What did you do to her just now?" "I created a 15-dimensional world filled with all kinds of torment and sealed her inside it. She will be there until I say otherwise," Carrera told them. Diablo and Testarossa both looked at Carrera as if she had a second head. Their looks caused Carrera to feel a little self-conscious. "What's with that look you two are giving me?" Carrera asked them. "Era, don't mind us, Carrera. It's just that the way you described creating a 15-dimensional world as no big deal caught me off guard," Testarossa told her without losing her smile. "I guess this means you have really ascended into the realm of deity. Tell me, Carrera, how did you manage it?" Diablo asked with curiosity. Carrera sighed, remembering her experience that led to her evolution. "Let's just say that it wasn't a walk in the park. But I guess this means that I am the strongest among the primordial demons, even stronger than Red." Diablo and Testarossa both sighed at what Carrera said. Not that what she said was not true, but they would never admit it to her. Carrera, who was loving the looks of Diablo and Testarossa, stopped and turned her face downward near the entrance of El Dorado. "It would appear that Demon Lord Leon is dead," she said casually. Testarossa was shocked by the news and turned down the same direction Carrera was facing to confirm what she said. "It looks like it. And he calls himself a Demon Lord when he couldn't even kill a single Commander Angel." Diablo looked down as well and sighed. "Lord Rimuru wanted us to protect him in this kingdom. Now that he died, it will certainly disappoint Lord Rimuru." Testarossa and Carrera both realized that what Diablo said was correct. Rimuru would certainly be disappointed in them if Leon truly died. Carrera stretched out her right hand in front of her, and immediately Chris, the Commander Angel who killed Leon in battle, appeared in her hand. Chris was shocked and confused about how he appeared in the hands of Carrera, but Carrera ignored him and threw him to Testarossa. "I'm gonna hand him to you to do with what you want. Let me revive Leon from the dead," Carrera told her. Testarossa actually looked shocked. "You can actually bring back someone whose soul has disappeared from the world?" Carrera looked at her before turning back to the place where Leon's body lay. "When you become a deity, the concept of mortal limits does not exist anymore. recreating and bringing back a destroyed soul from the dead as child's play for a deity. Saying that, Carrera's eyes glowed golden, and an overwhelming aura was released from her body. The power was overwhelming, but Diablo and Testarossa, who were closest to her, didn't feel anything at all. This was due to Carrera protecting them and all those in the kingdom from her power. Carrera's nigh omnipotent power sought to perform a feat that defied the boundaries of life and death. Her intent was to revive the fallen demon lord, Leon Cromwell, whose soul has vanished from reality, utilizing powers that transcended mortal comprehension. With a serene grace, Carrera delved into the unfathomable depths between existence and the void, seeking to pull Leon's soul from the clutches of the afterlife. Her divine essence resonated as she maneuvered through the realms, only to discover an unexpected resistance that eclipsed even her own cosmic might. Puzzled by the overpowering force that had taken possession of Leon's soul, Carrera's brow furrowed in contemplation. Her powers, though nearly limitless, found themselves subdued by an unprecedented authority that eclipsed her own capabilities. As Carrera delved deeper into the source of this overwhelming force, her countenance shifted from confusion to a serene realization. A soft smile graced her lips as the truth unfurled before her. An entity of immeasurable power had taken possession of Leon's soul, a being whom Carrera held in the highest regard. "My master, Rimuru Tempest." Carrera whispered the name, her voice resonating with reverence and fondness. The realization washed over her, as she comprehended the magnitude of Rimuru's ascension and his mastery over existence itself. In a display of divine acknowledgement and respect, Carrera's deity aura shimmered with awe. The one who held Leon's soul was none other than her beloved master, Rimuru, who had ascended beyond even the realm of deities. In a moment of profound understanding, Carrera acknowledged that Rimuru Tempest's power transcended her own. Her intention to revive Leon met an unexpected but heartwarming resolution as she understood that Rimuru, in his divine capacity, had taken charge of Leon's soul. Acknowledging this fact, Carrera withdrew from her endeavor, accepting the natural order of events. Her smile held the utmost respect and adoration for Rimuru, her beloved master, whose powers surpassed even the realm of deities. The threads of existence were woven in ways that even a deity like Carrera could not fathom. In Rimuru Tempest, she recognized a force that shaped and governed the very essence of life, death, and the deity realms. A being whose power resonated far beyond the scope of mere gods. Diablo looked down and noticed that Leon's dead body was still lying there. "Did it not work?" he asked Carrera. "Not really. I just discovered that the soul of Leon wasn't destroyed but was collected. Not just Leon, but all the citizens of Earth who died in this war have had their souls collected. I traced back to the source and discovered that it was Lord Rimuru who collected all their souls. My guess is that he plans to revive them all after this war ends," Carrera explained to them. "Kuf foo 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 foo. That does sound like something Lord Rimuru would do," Diablo said with a smile on his face. My lord is always one step ahead of us all. I'm so glad that I am serving such a master," Testarossa said with a blush. Carrera turned around and began to fly away. "I'll leave all the angels here to you guys. You two are more than capable of wiping them out with little effort. I'll go see if anyone else needs my assistance." As Testarossa watched Carrera leave, she turned her attention to Chris, who was bound by her whip. "Now, what to do with you? What amazing torture do you want to experience first?" Chris wished he would die. After the hard fight he had, he never expected to have fallen into the hands of these powerful demons. He knew his end had come, which was why he gave up any kind of resistance, not that it would work even if he did resist. Diablo ignored Testarossa and her new toy and turned to the battle still happening below. Well, time to clean up these angels and return to Lord Rimuru's side. That was his motivation for putting in all this effort. Diablo, who hated being away from Rimuru's side even for a minute, couldn't wait to complete his mission and return to his master's side. Due to this, a bloody massacre occurred in the kingdom of El Dorado that will be remembered throughout history.